As a CEO at the helm who was there for nearly 30 years, and you were the CEO for 18 years until the day it went out of business, and not went out of business, that was bought from by Chase, what could you have done differently as the leader of the helm?
Obviously, that's a question I think about a lot. About, as I said, first, we did a lot of things trying to prepare for this thing. Again, fortunately, I knew housing looked overvalued and that we ought to get prepared for it and the like. The things that we could have done that we didn't were probably along the line of getting out of lending 3 or 4 years ahead of that 100%. We had made a lot of commitments on low and affordable home lending to help people and the like, and I just couldn't bring myself to saying we're just going to cut it off totally. And in hindsight, we would have been better off if you had just dropped out of it. I do think that in hindsight, I was looking back, I think some of the products, and these would be the things like were covered in the movie, the
Big Short.
Big Short. That is not; those were not option arms. They were really focused on the products that the subprime lenders were doing, and those were 228s and 327s, where basically the interest rate was fixed for 2 or 3 years, and with the idea that you'd give subprime borrowers the ability to have 2 or 3 years to improve their credit, and then the interest rate jumps up on them. Well, over time, those worked okay, but it never felt like a very good product because people would hit payment shocks and the like. And we did not offer that product initially. And we bought a company, a very small company called Long Beach Mortgage that was in that. And so we had some of those. But the more I looked at that, I said, boy, and we eventually closed that product down. But in hindsight, I wish I'd never even gotten near it. And sometimes people confuse that product with option arms. And again, I don't want to be a big champion of option arms because they are riskier than fixed rate. They worked well for years and years, but they did have higher losses than traditional fixed rate. But they were nowhere near the problems of these 228 and 327 kind of loans. So I wish we would never even have seen that subprime market. The other point I should have made earlier too is that in our case, the option arms only went to prime borrowers. That was not a subprime product. It only went to people with prime FICO scores. So the product was originally designed okay, but I think when Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac got involved in it, they lowered underwriting standards, and that product started getting put into the hands of subprime people too, and that was inappropriate in looking back in that time. But I felt good that we on those raw ethics question that we always had that at the forefront. I mean, absolute honesty, integrity, and fairness were right at the top of our values, and we led the industry in things like adopting responsible lending principles. We wouldn't do a lot of those products that others would, even though they could make money on them, and tried to do that, or tried to be as conservative as we could on that front. But I think in hindsight, we also had a mission to gradually move our charter away from a thrift charter to a full banking charter so we could diversify away from real estate more. And I just didn't have time. I should have, again, if I'm in hindsight, we would have pushed that higher on the agenda and got it done immediately. But we started on a plan in the early 2000s. It helped with buying a credit card company. It helped with growing our small business and commercial lending and the like. But I needed to make a large commercial bank acquisition to make it meaningful enough so that we could shrink the balance of residential assets, and we didn't get that done.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.